Molly?
I thought Randy had one, but he didn't get. Okay. All right.
So the motion is to install a Diet Dew fountain in the center of the table here. The ayes have it so far. Anybody object? Anybody in the hall want to be heard before this momentous development is finalized? Hearing no objections from the hall. Somebody's out there, aren't they? So,
We have two online.
I heard somebody making fun of a political figure for drinking Diet Dew. I don't know who that was, but I want to know what qualifies them for public service if they mock Diet Dew. Just random observations. I'm just trying to bring folks in. Anybody else out there? What's that?
Where did?
It's the formaldehyde.
Touch base with the superintendent.
I'm going to
She
be
has
pickled.
Matt
What's
and-
that? Diet Dew.
Okay.
All right, I think we've put the call out. We've got everyone who's in hearing range. So let's do a quick roll call because we're about to go into USBE official business, reconvening from our USDB role.
We're doing the workout for, so.
We might want to.
Okay, hopefully.
We can hear you online.
Someone is not
somebody.
muted. Oh, thanks.
All right, so we're doing roll call, folks. We're moving back into USBE business, unfinished business from yesterday. So we'll start with Member Bogus,
Yes.
Member Booth.
Here.
I don't think we have Member Davis, but just checking. Okay, Vice Chair Earl.
Yes, here. I'm here.
Oh, Vice Chair Davis is here? We
I'm
heard-
here.
We heard Cindy, okay. Okay, and Member Green, I know was transitioning to remote. Do we have Emily with us? Not yet? Okay. Vice Chair Hart. Let's see. I know, well, snooze you lose. Let's see. Bogus, Booth, Davis, Earl.
Update you.
Let's see. Member Hymas? On his way. Member Carey? He's not with us still, correct? Member Lear?
Here.
Okay. Member Norton? Member Norton? Member Reel? Member Straight?
Here.
Member Wood?
Yes.
And Member Moss? That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we've barely got a quorum. We got a couple filtering in. We don't have a motion maker. I think Jenny's trying to grab some more folks. I know her motion was being transferred over from where it was tabled from yesterday, so.
I think all we need is a motion to lift it from the table, don't we?
Yeah, I just want to make sure the postponed, thank you, so.
Do I need to?
All right, let's see.
Postponed it? Does it need to
We-
come back up?
It does need, it was postponed. What's the formality of bringing it back to life? Do we need a motion to?
Okay, I'd make a motion that we work on unfinished business from Thursday's board meeting.
Second?
Okay. The motion that was before the board before.
I think we just need to put to these
Oh.
ayes. Is that right then, for a motion?
Oh,
All
yeah,
in
sorry.
favor of continuing back to unfinished business from yesterday? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Hearing no opposition, that's unanimous. So the unfinished business from yesterday, which included a member, or Vice Chair Earl's motion, is before us. Vice Chair Earl?
Yes. And I didn't hear any feedback from anyone after the meeting or during today, so I don't know if there was any movement on this, but I guess we can divide it into two motions. If people want to divide it, I'm just going to move it as one. There is some question as to whether or not the funding would be adequate or if it would need to be a little more intensive, but I think currently this is the direction I'm going to go unless anybody has any recommendations, and I didn't have anybody, like I said, I didn't have anybody actually come and talk to me about it or move, so, and I can read the motion before the board, just so
Don't
the
do that
public's
yet.
aware of it. What?
Oh, the public.
It's for the
no.
public to be aware of it. So the motion is that the board requests the critical personnel needs of USB move forward for board consideration and the board use $100,000 of FML, which is federal mineral lease funds from the board's discretionary account to hire an independent firm to conduct a desk audit of state-funded positions at USBE. The independent firm will evaluate positions to determine if the positions are adequate in job duties and responsibilities, market both government and private sector comparative pay and classification. The firm will analyze whether the state-funded positions are sufficient to qualify in quantity, and alignment to ensure the capacity to meet state laws and USB rules. The SOW RFP selection process will include at least 2 board members, and timeline would be mid-December. So that's the general
So
motion there. Anybody has
Do we
an
have a
amendment?
second? Well, let's see, was this
We have to
seconded or
second
was it
again?
before us?
seconded.
I think it was.
before. This is what was
Sorry.
before the
Okay,
body.
It had been seconded, it's pending. So comment, discussion of the motion. Member Earl?
Lear.
Lear? My
So
gosh, how many times?
is this the same motion, exactly the same motion from yesterday?
It is. I didn't hear, there was quite a bit of discussion, quite a bit of dialogue, but I personally didn't get any other feedback on that. I asked a few individuals if there was a recommendation, and I don't think anyone landed on one. So, like I said, I'm open if there's some direction you want to take, if you want to divide it up, or I do want to move, for sure, the critical needs of USBE. I just feel like if we need assistance with some kind of validation there, and whether this is the right way to do that or not is what's been up for debate. I feel like I think we need a strong argument. So that's my reason for doing it.
Member Wood?
Just a question. So based on the information we received yesterday about the pending audit report coming in that did some of this, is there anything that will give us that will lessen what needs to be done through this person? Is it different information? Because I'm not privy to all of that information. Can anyone clarify that?
Vice Chair Earl, did you want that one, or Vice Chair Hart, I think?
I can shed some light. I don't know if it'll answer the question. The audits, one was titled Personnel Management, the other is Technical Assistance, would probably not answer any question directly. It would more provide context. It had a narrower scope and a little bit low of a response rate to be able to draw too many conclusions for this type of purpose. It'll be valuable information, but I don't think it goes in the direction of this enough to answer the questions that this would answer.
That answered the question, Member Lear. Okay, Member Booth?
I am all for everything that Board Member Earl is recommending in the motion. I would just like to add to it and direct staff to provide prioritization of the positions that have been determined to be most needed in order to accomplish the work of the agency. And I know that our top leaders in the many years that we've brought this forward have been painfully aware of what we need. And whether it's, I don't know whether, I know they're busy, but I would love for Superintendent Dixon and Scott and Sarah and any of the deputies and assistants to be able to feed into someone what they have already determined and are already aware of as being priorities that we can add to the wonderful information that we will get through Member Earl's motion. And that then can be the basis of data and information as we make an approach to our legislators.
Thank you, Member Booth. And I hear that as not necessarily a motion, but perhaps as direction, and I think we've been asking that question. Is that something that can be done, given the language of the motion, if it passes, that the priority of the desk audit would be on those positions that have been determined and included in the business case as the most essential What do you folks think about that? Does that need to be made formal, or would that naturally follow from the language of the motion if it passes? Maybe they're figuring it out. All eyes on the corner.
Does
What's that?
anybody else have any? I've spoken once, so.
Jim, I have my hand up when you're ready.
Oh,
It's same
thank you,
here.
and I'm sorry, we don't see those, but Member Davis, go ahead. You guys see the hands up, right, or is it just on the?
Yeah,
Yes,
thank
Member
you.
Davis, we got you.
Thank you. If you're just gonna use that as direction, I have a substitute motion to the whole thing.
Let's see, there may be an amendment being crafted, and if so, then that, well, this is already put up, so if there's a substitute, we at least have to have the motion to amend drafted. I don't know if we have to move on the motion to amend. We can probably hear the substitute on top of the motion to amend, correct? Okay, let's just have it framed
The
first, so we know
amendment,
what we're
the
talking about.
amendment wasn't seconded.
Right, that's
but
what I'm saying.
yes,
Well,
if the
okay.
board wants to do that, that's fine, but I can read the sub and see if there's a second, if that's what people want to do. I don't know.
Let's see if there was a sub, because I think the motion to amend was made. We don't know if there was a sub. If there is, then we could certainly have a motion to substitute.
But wait a sec. But I didn't get a second. No, but wait a sec, yeah, because last I heard Jim was, and maybe I just wasn't staying on task, but Jim was saying, I don't know that needs to be a motion.
Right, so
And so I would have seconded, because I would really like.
that's what I'm saying. I think it was brought up, question of whether it was a motion and whether there was a second, and then
and I
whatever
would
that
like
is.
to- But I would
Yeah,
definitely like
that's where I'm
to see
going.
it
And then there could be a
prioritized.
substitute, but let's see what we have.
All right, all right.
Member Booth, was that a motion now that it's framed up?
Well, then I
Okay.
would second it.
All right, so it's been
because-
moved and seconded, got it, okay.
I got
So,
cut off at the knees.
so that is open to discussion, which can include
Not
Member
intentional.
Davis's substitute. No, nobody's cutting the knees, we're just getting it up here right. So, to request staff to provide prioritization justifications for the identified critical need FTEs through the agency. So, that's been moved and seconded, it's before the body. Member Davis, I believe, has a substitute.
Yeah, and my sub actually includes the intent of the amendment. So just, my sub is that the board directs staff to prepare a request for funding that identifies state-funded additional critical FTEs for support to districts and charter schools by the September 2024 board meeting for review by the board, and to utilize $100,000 of federal mineral lease funds to have a desk audit conducted by an external firm on these positions to be completed no later than December 15th, 2024.
All right, let's
Second.
get the language, and then we can see if there's a second and then discuss. Are you trying to capture that, or was that emailed to you? Member Davis?
Yeah, someone should have it there.
Oh,
I think, who's driving right now? I
Angie's
can
driving.
text it. I'll text it to Angie.
Sybil's riding shotgun. Okay, let's get it teed up, see if we have a second.
While they're teeing it up,
I second.
can I ask a clarifying question? How many critical needs are we asking for? 14? So, Board Member Davis, if I'm understanding, you want an analysis of 14 positions. Is that, am I understanding that right? Because that's the critical need that we're asking for. So you want this analysis to be about
yes,
14
I want that.
positions?
I want that to be the focus of the analysis. And certainly there may need to be review of what, other programs and departments and staff are doing, but I want the focus to be on these particular needs.
We had a second? Okay, thank you, Member Straight. All right, and is it framed up accurately, Cindy? I was making sure we had the language up there before we opened for discussion.
For me, it's
Let's-
too narrow.
Yes, and I'd like
but-
to,
Let's make sure we got it framed, and then we'll,
I'd like to speak whenever you're ready.
Yeah, we're just making sure we've got it accurately stated as you'd submitted it.
While they're writing that, do you mind if I ask a clarifying question of Member Booth?
You bet.
Member Booth, just for clarity, in your proposed amendment, are you asking staff are you asking the board to direct staff to write up cases for the critical needs? Just want to be clear what you're asking, or are you trying to get at what Member Davis just suggested?
I am trying to understand, since we haven't been successful over the last several years in getting funded and getting what we need, if you were to prioritize the things that you have needed year after year after year, if we can only get a part of it, what would be your top 5 to 7 positions? What are the top critical issues that if we just keep saying no, but maybe if we can get a part of it, if we get the most critical part, then we might ease the burden in some ways that the agency is feeling in being able to accomplish what they're wanting to accomplish.
Thank you, sir. May I follow up with one more? Thank you, Chair Moss. So if I heard what you just said, then you would prefer that we send them to the board that you're asking the board to direct staff to submit cases and then rank those cases according to criticality, much like the criticality index that we used to have to do for teacher shortage areas. So we would be sending them to you in terms of criticality, ranked. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you for that clarity.
Okay. Do we have that one?
Chair Moss,
Yeah, is that
in
framed
light
up?
of that, I could add the word prioritize also in this motion, which would be friendly.
Member Davis, are you suggesting that as a friendly to your own or to Member Booth's?
I'm just saying,
Request for
Yeah.
funding. Any objection to
Yeah.
Member Davis's friendly amendment to her own motion? Hearing none, okay. Prepare a prioritized request for funding. So I have a clarifying question. Neither of these ties it explicitly to the list of FTEs in the prior business case, right? Or was that the intent? We had a business case that worked up, I think, what, 14? Didn't we have one this year that, okay, not even we didn't get to the business case. I thought we had a pre-business case, something or other. All right. Okay, no, but I thought the workup suggested there'd been a prioritization, so not done yet. Okay. All right. So it's been moved and seconded. Member Davis's substitutes on the floor.
Right.
So any comment? Back to you, Member
I
Davis.
have a comment. Oh, she's gonna.
I'm sorry, I
Thank
thought she
you.
did. Did you have, okay,
She didn't speak to it.
I haven't spoken to it yet.
all right. Floor is yours.
Thanks. I think that certainly, just listening to what Member Earl had said, I do think that, there would be a look across the agency to see if there is actually a need for these additional 14 members. I don't know, she's talking to Jim, so I don't know if this addresses her concern or not, or if she'll be able to hear it, but,
Chair, may I query the speaker?
but I just want to say that this one prior that I'm subbing, where it says that the scope is to align to ensure the capability to meet state laws and USBE rules. I'd be fine if we need to add that into this sub, but I feel like what we do is so much broader than just meeting state laws and USBE rules, because we have a huge part of what we do is to support our districts and our charters. So I feel like if we just look at what meets the bare skeleton of law, that is not going to look at a picture of why our agency exists. So if we're just going to meet the bare skeleton of law, then really we can just have an office with some auditors and monitors and be done. But we have so many specialists that help our state to go deep academically and organizationally. And I think we need to look at that in a broader way.
Okay, discussion of the motion. Member Bogus.
So, Member Davis,
Or was it Member Lear first? Did I jump out of line here? I'm out of line.
Question of Davis, though.
Okay, Bogus and Lear.
so through the chair, Member Davis, 2 or 3 times you said members. Did you mean FTEs?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
I don't know which place I was, with what comment you're referring to.
Well, just, I just wanted to make certain that we were on the same page and that I was understanding you correctly. That we're still talking about staff and not something else.
Yes, I had mentioned, I was just trying to answer a question or a comment that one of the members had had. And so I had mentioned her a couple of times. I didn't know if she was able to hear it or not, but, and then maybe we could incorporate what she was thinking into this, but I just think we do need a broader look.
Okay, so may I, Chair? To me, and I could be wrong, your motion narrows the scope to me. And so maybe we need to discuss that further, but that would be my assessment of the two, like of Vice Chair Earl's and then yours. Yours seems more narrow to me, and maybe we need to debate that.
Yeah, it narrows the positions and broadens the scope. And maybe to your point, I need to focus or clarify that the focus would be on these positions, but certainly a look at the agency, especially in regard to the need, would certainly be considered in an audit of this nature.
And if I'm understanding you right, Cindy, if you don't mind me asking, you're saying that the service-oriented portion of our agency, in other words, how we assist local LEAs in meeting the requirements of law or the requirements of code, that kind of a thing, or even the needs that they have. Is that an accurate statement? Is that where you're headed with that question?
Yes, if I may, Chair. And I'll be honest, even then, I think it's really difficult to capture from auditors an accurate look at what our folks do and what the need is for that. I think it's almost, well, it's just really, really difficult. So I don't even know if this, I mean, I hope they can, but I think it's going to be hard.
Okay, Member Lear.
Thank you. Here's my quandary, because I've, over the years, or since I've been a board member, and I believe I've seen this almost every year since I've been a board member, this request to the legislature. I've always, it's been lower on my priority scale. And it's partly because of this quandary. First of all, it's not our staff, it is the superintendent's staff. And so the superintendent hires them. She disciplines them. In fact, we don't even know the details of how they're being disciplined and maybe the people in leadership have more inside information than the rest of the board members. But the truth is, I don't see, as one board member, never been in leadership, I don't know all the ins and outs of what's going on with the superintendent's staff. And because I worked in the office, I know some detail about some staff positions. And it's been my concern that I feel like those people, the ones I know about, are not are not doing, and this is just my opinion, but if we're going to discuss this, I think we have to discuss it frankly. I think that I could see some greater efficiencies for some staff members, but it's not my place because because I'm only a board member and it is the superintendent's staff. So I am in a quandary about elevating this very high up on the food chain because I feel like there are some people, yes, that I know enough about and their work that I think they should be, that I would go to the mat in arguing for them to have more help, more salary, whatever it is. There are other situations that I would not, but they're all lumped together. So my hope is, well, first of all, I wish we could somehow get out of that space of not being in charge of these people, but supposedly advocating for them with expertise. That's very difficult for me, and so I don't even know what to do about that. And secondly, I like the prioritization discussion because there are a few that I know enough about that I would, like I said, argue vehemently and vote every time to give them higher salary and greater priority in terms of legislative funding. So that's kind of one part of my comment. The second part of my comment is we keep looking for audits to do this work. And my experience with audits has not been totally positive. That the auditing process, and Cindy started into this a little bit, is not really, it doesn't really help me as a board member in some ways, because auditors tell you this is happening, A is happening, B is not happening. It doesn't say, but you could do C, and that would help the situation. They're not empowered. It's not their training or their skill set to say this is how you could use these people more efficiently, or even to say, or even to give us some of the insight that I was talking about, feeling like there's a vacuum before. So I also struggle with making this an audit because I don't think it gets at what we really want, what I really want at least. So that's my ambivalence about this whole situation, and every vote I've taken for 5 or 6 or 7 years or however long it's been, and I'm still even feeling it in spending $100,000 because I pocket change, but I certainly wouldn't spend $100,000 of my own money to do this when I don't think an audit will get at what I want.
All right, thank you. And just to frame this or contextualize, I do believe the motion came up in the context of legislative funding priority discussion, right? So there are parts of these various motions that would go broader than that and have other uses. I think it was brought up at least in the immediate context of how do we analyze potential FTEs. And I'll just tell you again, procedural context, we didn't support working up an FTE business case, and we as leadership had discussion with staff and felt that it was worth revisiting that because there is a sense that there are some needs that have not been filled. So I think that might be helpful background context of where we came up with the motion, at least Vice Chair Earl came up with it. Do some digging in preparation for the session and see if board members want to reconsider putting together some kind of business case. And if so, how might this inform that? But then, at least as I understand it, there are broader elements to the various motions. So I just want to let you know how this kind of came about, both background to this meeting and then yesterday. With that, I think Vice Chair Hart had a...
Yeah, so I think we might be making some leaps here. The original intent, the goal that we're trying to hit is adequate staffing in our agency. We do not get to choose how many positions we are funded for. That is decided by legislature. For years, they have said, generally, overall, this is not a priority. So if we want our agency to get the people that we know that we need then we need to provide better information to the legislature on why we need it and where we need it. This is not to make a judgment about how the agency is run, how the agency, it's not to get into that space. It's an outward looking look to collect information that would have the secondary benefit of providing our agency leadership with information so they can make decisions on how they run their agency. So this isn't us, this is not so that we can decide how the agency is run. This is to give two parties information that they can then make decisions on. It is not for us to make the decisions, but we are the ones that have to allocate the money and allow for the expenditure of it. But that doesn't mean that we then make decisions based on the information that comes back to us. And an audit is not supposed to tell you. But if you would like an agency, an outside firm, to go that far and give recommendations, you simply put it in the scope of work. But that's not an audit. An audit gives you information, and then you as either the board, if it's in your space, or the agency leadership, if it's in theirs, they then make decisions. Okay, here's some good information, quality information. Here's what we're going to do about it. It's not the role of an audit. When you want recommendations, that's when you ask a consulting firm to do the research and give you recommendations. But I think it's absolutely necessary that if we want our agency to get more positions, we have to provide better information. We don't have that information. The request is an outward-facing request, not an inward-facing request to pass judgment on agency or agency leadership. So I think we're just framing this wrong, and we need to look at what our goal is, and our goal is to give legislature the information that they need to make a good decision. And we don't have that information, and we won't have it unless we do the original, which has enough of a scope so that, because if we do what we're saying here, we've narrowed it to the positions that we think we need, and the legislature has said no repeatedly. So I just feel like we're throwing money at a problem that we're just doing the same thing we already did, but putting a $100,000 price tag on it. We have to get some information to share with legislators in a way that they can look at the information and say, oh yeah, it's not just the agency saying they need more. This organization gave us some information. Now, whether they trust it or not, it's up to them, but we need to provide them with better information, period.
Jim Cindy's hands up.
Yeah, we got you. Member Davis, thank you.
Thank you. So I agree with everything that Molly just said, but I feel that this substitute motion fits that need better than the original motion. And that is because it seems to me the original motion is seeking to answer the question, is our agency doing what it needs to do to fulfill state and federal legal requirements? And the bottom substitute motion seems to answer the question to me is, do we need more FTE or not? So that's where my perspective is coming from with the substitute motion. And also making sure that and I agree 100% on everything Vice Chair Earl and Vice Chair Hart have said in this space, that we continue to go to the legislature, and this directs more, Chair, to Member Lear's comments, but, I don't know if it's a case of believing or just not prioritizing monetarily, but I don't know. We say we have a need for these additional FTE and it's not filled. And so what will it take minus an audit? I don't know. I don't love putting $100,000 into this audit either. But I also don't know what else to do unless having some independent external view say, you really do need this or you really don't need it.
Okay, just a clarifying question. The underlying motion, I guess, so Member Booth's motion was to amend Vice Chair Earl's motion. The original motion did not include a request for a business case, correct?
Yeah, it did.
Did it?
Critical personnel needs of USB remove board consideration, which would be the business case.
And, okay, all right, so that is formally a business, all right, gotcha. So we got a business case in either case. All right, further discussion to Member Davis's motion to substitute. Any further, Member Lear?
I know I've spoken, but I have to respond to one of, I feel like there's not a meeting of the minds. I feel like there's some people who know more than other people, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that I want to understand what all of you understand so we can reach agreement. But my main point was in responding to Member Hart's comment that had an assumption absolutely within it that is my biggest problem. In the middle of 2 or 3 sentences into her comment, she said, we want to tell the legislature that we know that we need these people. That is exactly my point. I do not know that we need these people. That's an assumption. And I'm not going to go to the mat on 15 people when I only know we need 3 people. And so, I know we're caught in a dilemma about the superintendent really having more insight, more background, knowing who she can use for what and who she can expand and who she can't do what with what. So I feel like we're being asked to support something with our whole heart when I don't have enough information to do that. And it sounds like some of you do, but I don't. So I can't, and I don't want to just sit and bicker about this. I'll just vote no, because I don't feel like I will get the information I need from an audit firm. And believe me, I understand audits. I was a hearing officer on audits for 5 years. So I get audits, what they do and what they don't do. And I don't believe that audits do what I want to know.
Vice Chair Earl?
Well, I need to clarify because you are absolutely correct. I do not know, and I misspoke, so I want to be on the record. I do not know if we need them or not. And I want to see the information to make that decision because I don't feel like I have enough information to know if I need it or not. I do not believe just wholesale that we absolutely must have this information. I need more information in order to make that decision. You are correct, and I misspoke.
All equally uninformed.
Right.
I think that's I'll speak for myself. I mean, what we know as leadership, I think, well, I said I spoke for myself and then I'd speak for all of us. Speaking for leadership, we have conversations as we're trying to present these cases, right? So the only thing we might know more is just a repeat and more in the weeds of the question. Why do you need this? Why can't you move stuff around? Have you looked at whether the position just good, general, healthy, but skeptical questions. And so I think I didn't bring this motion, but I think the idea is to get to that information, which you're right, we don't know everything. And I think that's the idea of having the audit. But
Well, it's not just the audit element, it's also the fact that that's what was requested from the superintendent. The very individual you're saying we shouldn't be in the weeds with is the one asking us for these positions. So, well, you would have to know more, and that's why we asked for it to be a business case so that there could be an analysis, about that. But the question is, it just providing credibility to the request is what the idea was. And like I said, we've probably drawn this out way too long. People can vote. If you don't want it, vote against it. But I think we do need to move the business case forward, at least to be considered by the board, because it's the request of the superintendent and her staff. But if we don't want to do that, we can not do that too. I just don't think that's probably the best approach, whether you think it's 3, 5, or 20. I think we're getting the information we know, which is just that there's an ask for particular people, so.
Say that. Okay, Member Straight, and it is coming up on 3:30. This has been a good discussion. Let's see if we can bring it to a head. Member Straight, and then did you want to speak, or we have Vice? I will. Okay, Member Straight, Vice Chair Hart, and then back to Member Davis, and let's see if we're ready for a vote. You're muted, though. Sorry, Brent, you're muted.
Thank you. You know, we advocate for education in the state of Utah. And, you know, when you work for USBE, there's a perception that we really need to overcome. I remember thinking as a young teacher, well, what did they do there in Salt Lake? And as I went through the time, I realized that they do a lot, but I'm not certain the legislature understands that. But I think we're in a better position if we bring back quantifiable study information that will help us build our case. And I think any of these motions do that. And, you know, we are in a situation where we have a lot more influence, for example, in the governor's office, with individuals who have worked at the Utah State Board of Education. I think that the information that we can gather from doing this audit will give us the ability to make a quantifiable analysis of our needs. And really, we're fighting on behalf of our people, not the superintendent's people, our people. Anyway, I'm going to vote for it, and let's get moving forward.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Hart?
I think we might actually be looking for a consultant, not an audit. And we're looking for a consultant that can give us also some direction, not just audit. Second of all, I think that a very wise person actually pointed out to me that I think Member Davis, I think yours is an internal assessment with an external validation. And Vice Chair Earl, yours has an external assessment which then you don't need a validation. Those are both legitimate. It's just two ways to the same thing. I think we need to remember what question we're answering. And the question we're answering is when legislators talk to us, they say, why don't you move your people around? They don't say, they don't just say you have enough. They say, why aren't you staying modern and up to date by using your people flexibly? If we only look at the positions that we claim are critical, we are not actually hitting their argument head on. If you were debating, it wouldn't flow because their argument is your people need to be moved. If we only look at a few people, then we're not able to say those people are in the right place and we need these or we don't need these. So I want to make sure that if we spend this, not pocket change, on something, that it actually answers the question that the legislators, when they make that claim, the question or the assumption that underlies it. And so I do think that it is important to look at the whole scope because they're looking at the whole scope, not just, you don't need a person for these 3 bills. They're saying, you might need it, but it could come from over here. And if we don't worry about over here, we're not going to be able to tell them they're right or they're wrong. That's just my 2 cents.
All right, Member Davis, then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks. I think we can, if we look at Member Earl's original motion, and if we add Member Booth's request for a prioritization at the top, that the board requests a prioritized list of critical personnel needs. If we add that, and then if we add below, add to the scope, not just of looking at, does it meet the state and board law and rule, but add the piece to support, to all, also supporting districts and charter schools, then I think we can move forward with the Member Earl's motion. But
So,
we'd have a larger focus. But
Yeah.
again, I think the question we need to know is, do we need more people or not? And we keep getting told we don't. And people also seem to not understand that you can't take a federally funded employee and have the federally funded employee do state needs and vice versa. So someone's got to take a look at all of this and help everybody to understand what's currently being done and where and if there is an additional need.
okay, so procedurally, your motion to substitute is pending. I think if yours is voted down, then you go back to Member Booth's, and if there are further amendments to that, that could be done. But we've got right now the substitute motion on the floor, correct?
I think that could all take a long time. If there's no objection, I would rather just withdraw my motion. And if it's friendly to Member Earl, add in
Well, and Member Booth.
those two pieces, and maybe Member Booth might withdraw his as well. I don't know.
Let me see if that's permissible. I always want to check with my parliamentarian. The request is, can she pull, if there's no objection, pull her motion to substitute and instead offer an amendment to Member Booth's amendment? So, all right, let's do that. Member Davis, unless there's an objection.
I don't have an objection, but as long as we're making a few group changes.
Well, hold on, we're not. Let's see if this one's permissible. I know we could be more streamlined if we all just kind of went after it, but I got to keep some semblance of Robert's rules. So, Superintendent Dixon, did you have a
Did you
comment
get
to the?
Member Davis taken care of?
No, we're doing that now. So I
Okay.
think what we're doing then, without objection, is pulling the substitute. Do we have the proposed friendly amendment to Member Booth, sort of Member Vice Chair Earl's language?
And I can speak to Member Booth, so it might save time.
Okay, let's get the language from Member Davis added in there. Request staff, let's see. Are we adding, or do we still need more language in there? Are you folks waiting on me, or are we waiting for language of Member Davis?
She doesn't look like she's thinking.
Okay, Angie's still working on it. No worries, no rush. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't.
What was the second thing that Board Member Davis wanted to add in? I think I got the prioritization and justification in there from Board Member Booth. Can you use your, sorry,
It was the support for district and charter schools.
Oh, okay. I see. And Board Member Davis, are you thinking we would add that support for school districts and charter schools maybe down here on the firm will analyze whether the state funded positions are sufficient and whether there's a need from districts and charters kind of in that area I have highlighted there?
I think it would be ensure capacity or capability to meet state laws, USBE rules, and whatever that language you just said.
Okay.
That's.
And
Cindy,
support
does that work?
districts and charters.
Yeah.
And support districts and
support-
charters.
Yep, for districts and charters. Yep, would be it.
Can I ask,
Oh,
Deputy
We
Jones
got it
or
all?
Dr. Dixon?
Okay.
It says desk audit, but what we really mean is a consultancy. So
I don't know if that's really what we mean.
I think, I would,
It's
I
Member
was
Earl's
hoping. that-
motion. Do we want to
they would-
submit friendly language and see if she accepts?
So, Deputy Superintendent of Operations Scott Jones, desk audit is just
You're the
an
friendly
HR
determinant.
term that was used. So, you know, it's understood likely in the industry that we're doing a desk audit of positions. That's the term that they've used in the past. It's going away. It's old school.
Okay.
If you don't use it, that's fine, because in the scope, we would be very detailed about what we're expecting.
So
them
it would
to-
be described in the
Yeah,
scope
that's
rather
just a
than in the
term.
language here.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
because the details are in the scope of work of what gets done. So you can take the term out if you want. It's not a,
If you want to, I don't care.
So let me just get some clarity here from the parliamentarian. We had Member Booth's motion to amend pending to Member Earl's motion when the substitute was withdrawn. I guess we've now added language to Member Earl's underlying motion. I thought that was going to be part of Booth's. Let's just highlight, and I'll just say that we are taking that new language from Member Davis as part of the amendment from Member Booth, if Member Booth is okay and having no objection. So Member Booth's amendment to Member Earl's motion includes his language below and the underlined language above. Any further discussion to that motion to amend? Do we have it all framed up correctly? Seeing none, Vice Chair Hart, don't wander away. We're going to vote.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, still open.
Does the prioritization come before or after the study? So right now we have it coming before.
I think it's got to go in association with the request for the,
So it's kind of the same time. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
because that comes before us, so it's the position prioritization.
Member Bogus?
So just for clarity, would the timeline being mid-December, should we frame that as the deliverables would be to the board by mid-December? What does that actually mean in this context? Because to me, that's a deliverable statement as opposed to just like, hey, we would start this around December.
Deputy Superintendent Jones, did you want to weigh in?
if I may, Chair. So the reason, so if the board were to direct staff to put the request for funding together, we do that. So we're following the process leading up to your submission to the governor's office, then prepping for the legislative session. Parallel to that process would be this process with the external firm, so that before the start of the legislative session, you have that information or data from the external firm, right, to determine whether you as a board want to continue to push for that request into the legislative session or part of the legislative session. Does that answer the question? It's there are two parallel processes resulting in informed decision-making by you on whether to pursue that request. We just have to give them time to do it, so you can do it in tandem or in parallel. Does that answer Board Member Bogus's question?
Member Bogus?
It does, assuming this does not have to come back to the board for some sort of final.
Right. Well, if I may,
Well,
Chair,
yeah, I
and
guess that's
I
a
mean,
good
you're
question in
always
terms of
having to
prioritizing.
look at your, your requests and, I mean, that's an ongoing process. When you start to meet weekly during the session and things, you may want to make a decision,
Well-
to reprioritize or,
When are we,
oh, the RFP. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
when does it get prioritized then? Does it? Or,
The RFP or the
no,
RFF?
the critical needs,
We'll have to prioritize.
it's got to come here to the board to vote,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, the request for funding will come to you if you pass this
Right.
out. The request for funding would come to you in your September
In
meeting.
September, okay.
Right, where you would consider it with all the other RFFs and then start your prioritization
Then the audit
process for
goes
the October
December.
meeting, then it goes to that, right.
Okay.
And then parallel to this, if you pass that out, we, the staff, would be putting together the scope of work and releasing the RFP.
Right.
So, yeah.
Fourth of deliverable
The RFP
December.
wouldn't come back to the board, but, yeah.
But the deliverable on that would come in December.
Yes.
So that we will
Right.
prioritize, then the backup comes in, we're ready for the session,
Right.
right? Okay.
And that's enough time, Superintendent Jones, from September to,
Whereas, so if it go, Chair, if I may, if we are just evaluating the positions that we identify as critical, asking an external firm to do that, then yes, there's enough time to do that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you all. Deputy Stallings.
Thank you. Just for clarification, I added in the language that's italicized in purple. I can take it out, but it does say that the prioritized with the justifications would come in September. Is that what we were? And then the external desk audit or scope of work would be December. Okay.
Before January. So mid-December, yes. Okay, let's vote.
Okay, I think we're set. Let's vote on Member Booth's motion to amend, which includes the underlined language in Member Earl's motion and freestanding language below. Can we scroll up just a bit so we see all the Booth language? There we go. Okay,
Just point of clarification.
yes.
Which two board members, are the two board members going to be appointed by the chair? And do we need to have three? It just has at least two. I wonder if there should be three, just in case
That's your motion.
there's two that think
What's the-
differently.
I don't think it needs to be more than two. I think it's just two board members and people can indicate if they're interested.
Okay,
If you want to do, if this body wants to do three, I just don't want to make it cumbersome. Yep. Yeah, three is an option. Six are an option.
well, I mean, I think it's just six are an option.
Well, no, but it's at least two, so.
I would just put three and be done and don't do 4, 5, 6
It's-
or
or-
one or I don't.
Would it make it easier if I just went through my motion?
No, not right now.
I think we got some good stuff up there with yours,
Yeah.
Member Booth and Member Davis's last point
just
here.
leave
Is
it.
that a proposed
Just leave it.
friendly or just a
It's fine,
a
just leave it.
question? Okay, so at least two.
Just leave it.
All right, preferably not a quorum, but I think that goes without saying, right? Okay, so Member Bogus,
Yes, on the amendment.
Member Booth, well, what happened here? We lost the underlining. There we go. All right. What is
What are
before
we
us
voting
is
on
Member
right now?
Booth's amendment is the underlined element of Member Earl's motion and the freestanding language below in Member Booth's motion to amend. If that is added, then we'll come to a motion on the full thing or a vote on the full thing as amended. Right? So that's what we're voting on. Member,
Point of information.
yes.
Does it also include and to support school districts and charter schools?
If that's
Yes.
'Cause that was-
underlined, yes.
It does.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
All right. So Member Booth's a yes. Member Davis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Earl,
Yes.
Member Green. Did we get Member Green back?
Yes.
Member Green is a yes. Vice Chair Hart,
Yes.
Member Hymus.
Yes.
We don't have Member Carey, correct? Just double checking. Member Earl,
Yes.
or I'm sorry, Member Lear.
Yes.
I'm losing it. Sorry. At least I haven't included real. We've got our three LEARs, REAL, straight. Oh, no, Member Norton.
Yes. Oh,
Member Norton? Member Norton, are you with us? We'll come back. Member Straight?
yes.
Straight's a yes. Member Wood? Member Moss is a yes. Back to Member Norton. Are you with us? Did I? Member Real, I apologize. It is a bad
And-
Friday.
And I seconded that motion.
And one more time for Member Norton. Are you with us? Okay, we've lost Member Norton, so I think we got everybody, right? Apologies, I didn't keep my roll up to date of who's here and who to call. Okay, that passes unanimously. That brings us back to Member Earl's underlying motion as amended, which is before the board. So let's see, do we have member Booth's language in there as well? Okay, so looking at the highlighted material for member Earl, that includes everything we just voted to add, and that's the motion to, I won't read the whole thing, as amended. Any final questions to that underlying motion or discussion? All right, we'll start at the bottom. Member Moss is a yes. Member Wood? Member Straight?
Yes.
Member Reel? Yes. Member Norton? Member, okay. I'll try to come back then. Member Lear?
Yes.
Member Hymas?
Yes.
Member Hart?
Yes.
Member Green? Vice Chair Earl?
No.
Oh. Did I hear from Member Green? That's a no?
You did.
Okay.
It was a no.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Earl?
Yes.
Member Davis? Member Davis?
Yes.
Yes. Member Booth?
Yes.
Member Bogus?
No.
Member Bogus is a no. Did we get everybody? Did I miss anybody who may be with us? Let's see, we don't have member Carey or member Klein, correct? And we don't expect them back? Or I just want to make sure I don't overlook anybody who's trying to join. We do have member Norton maybe. One last chance, member Norton, you with us?
Yes. Yes.
Member Norton's a yes, we got you. Okay. So that passes, I believe, 2 noes. Member Bogus and Green, and I don't know how many yeses. 11? 11 to 2, total of 13 voting? Yeah. Okay. All right, that motion has completed. I believe that's the only thing we had for carryover business, correct? Just that one little item. All right, good discussion though. This is an ongoing issue, folks, so I'm glad we got into it, and that will help set up the ongoing presentation. So